Welcome back to BadgerBlitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Rivals.com national analyst Clint Cosgrove. Clint, you know what we always say.
Best time of the week, and it feels like it's been a couple weeks maybe. I don't know. It's been a blur.
You know what? It's the time between Christmas and New Year's. I've heard it described as a liminal space. No one really knows what happens. I just feel like that's where we're at right now, especially after we had to stay up until an ungodly hour of the morning to watch that bowl game. And that's where I want to start today. You and I both watched the game, and just like quickly from sort of like a big picture standpoint, we were talking before the show, Clint, and one of the things that you said really that stood out to me was about how Luke Fickell managed this process. What does that sort of tell you about Fickell, and what was sort of your overall thought here on how the Badgers handled the bowl game?
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's a unique situation. A lot of the time, an interim coach will coach the game, or, in the past, Coach Alvarez has come back to coach. But I thought it was really interesting to see a head coach go in. I also think it says a lot about his ability to kind of vibe and get things to mesh, to go in with a staff that's not his, with a team that hasn't been his, and go in, travel, put together a bowl plan, and then win a bowl game on top of it. So I thought that was really interesting. I think it says a lot about his ability to establish relationships and trust from players. I think it's very smart in terms of letting the players know what they're in for moving forward, and maybe even getting a little taste of how he'll manage games and such moving forward. So I thought it was pretty cool. You don't see it often. And, you can't complain with the results. They did a great job, came out with a victory. And that's a lot of work to be done in a short amount of time, man.
Yeah, it really is. And, I think that you have to commend both Coach Fickell and the Badger coaches in place who stayed through, Coach
sure.
Leonard, basically the entire defensive staff who, what was it, 3/5 of them left for Stanford that evening, like right as the bowl game ended, basically. Yeah. They all said, we're off to Palo Alto, which, you know what? That's not the half bad landing spot. In Stanford.
No, it
Are
isn't.
you kidding me? I'm super happy for Coach Kalaji and Coach April and Coach D'Onofrio. I think they're going to have a great time out there at Stanford. And I'm actually a huge fan of who Stanford hired, Troy Taylor out from Sacramento State. I love FCS
Dude can
hires.
Throw the ball around.
Yeah, they can. And as someone who actually watches probably too much FCS football for one of my other podcasts, like I watched a lot of Sac State this year, and man, is that team fun. So anyways, I digress. Moving back to the bowl game, though, I thought it was really interesting that, Wisconsin started Chase Wolf, who, he's now announced since he's coming back for a 6th year, but a lot of people were expecting to see Miles Burkett in the future. We know that the Badgers have gotten a transfer commitment from Nick Evers from Oklahoma, and now a 2024 blue chip quarterback in Mabrey Mettauer. But what did sort of Wolf either show you, and what does that tell you that the coaching staff thinks of Wolf, that, basically they're inviting him back for another year and he's going to stay?
Yeah, I mean, I think it says a lot about Wolf to step on that stage really and get his first real PT on a national stage. And the one thing that you noticed about him is he was a game manager. He didn't win the game by himself. He certainly didn't lose the game, but you could tell he's an experienced player. He's been practicing for years. He meshes with the team. Obviously takes coaching. And if I'm a coaching staff and I'm new and I'm coming in and I want a guy who can, show the way for the younger quarterbacks in the program, which I think he'll do a great job of doing, a guy who can manage the game if you need him to come in, a guy who can win a big game for you if you need him. You want a guy like that on your roster. You want a guy like that coming back. And I'm happy for the kid. And I really think it says a lot about what Coach Fickell and staff think of him as far as football knowledge, grasp of the game, and what he provides from a leadership standpoint. And then to go in there and pull out a victory in a bowl game, I mean, that's big. And you always want a guy like that on your squad, in your program, and he makes the team better without question.
Yeah, and Fickle had to have been aware of him. He's a kid who's from the city of Cincinnati to begin with. He played at St. Xavier, like one of the powerhouses in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so there had to be, at least you assume that he probably would have recruited him. It would have been early in Fickle's tenure, but he probably would have recruited a kid that good. In high school in that area. So I want to, though, sort of move it forward now as we talk about sort of the next steps going into spring ball for the team. What do they have to fill out here in the 2023 class and in the portal? So, people in the Badgers Den, make sure you are there, a million times a day, checking out all the great content. But, people want to know who are some of those high priority late game targets or portal targets, or especially positions. The one that's glaring to me, and I think most Badger fans, is defensive line. Jamel Howard still potentially in play. Not exactly sure how that recruitment's going to play out. Still feels like a Michigan lean at this point, but we don't know how that is going to play out. Clint, so how do you see this draft? Like, where do you see them addressing it? And are there any late players here, either in the 2023 class or the portal, that you see being potential fits with the Badgers?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some guys who pop up in the 2023 class who were either under recruited, maybe thought that they were getting ready to sign with a Power 5 school, and all of a sudden they're start from scratch, check out new teams. There's late bloomers, there's all kinds of stuff like that. Because when these coaches go back on the road, they're going to start, obviously looking towards the future and looking towards 2024, but maybe there's a guy who fell through the cracks. And so there is always that possibility. I'm sure there are guys, other Jamel Howards out there who they're evaluating, who they're looking for. You talk about Jamel Howard. I'm not sure where he leans right now. If he was 100% Michigan, I think he would have signed there. But it could be one of a couple of things with him. All these SEC offers come in, and those start looking quite attractive, and you start wondering, well, how good can this get? How far can I take this? And I don't know if that's going to continue to happen. And we don't know if once signing day was done, if they said, well, if he's not going to commit, we're moving on. So we don't know if those spots are still available. I'd like to believe Wisconsin would still take him if he's on the board.
They have plenty of roster spots.
Yeah, so I imagine they will. Is Michigan full there? We don't know. Do guys end up leaving early or getting hurt in the bowl game? We don't know. So I think a lot of his status and future at Wisconsin is kind of outside of what Wisconsin has, on the table for him. As far as areas that are definitely going to go for, I think this is going to be, and this won't be an every year thing, but I think we're going to see some transfer portal action. Like you mentioned, the defensive line, they're going to need some immediate guys there. I don't know if you find them at JUCO, which, you don't get a lot of JUCOs at Wisconsin, obviously, or the portal. Right now, the portal probably looks like the better option for that. There's some good defensive linemen out there. Without naming names right off the top of my head and without pulling it up, I know that there's some dudes out there, and there will be more dudes moving forward. Cornerback is going to be an area that they're going to probably look to the portal for. And I think we saw during the game, receiver. They need some guys. They need some help at receiver, some older guys at receiver, because I do think there's some good young receivers in the building. But it might take some time for them to develop and come around. And, Fickle's offense is, like you've seen, they're going to try to stretch the field. Right now you have, Keontae Lewis, who can probably do that, especially if you get a really good quarterback, behind center who can get them the ball. And, all those young guys who they signed last year. So, but I do think receiver will be a portal need for them as well as the obvious ones, defensive line, defensive back. And then I wouldn't be surprised if they go for another quarterback in the portal as well. And that would likely be still on the board, our man Armstrong that we talked about. You look at those stats, those throwing for over 4,000, the year before this year, and then maybe running a little bit more this year, but, dual threat that would fit great in Longo's offense. So I think that's where they look, an educated guess towards where they will go, in the portal and what holes they will look to fill moving forward.
Yeah, I think that wide receiver position is just one I'm going to sit on here for another half second, because I personally am a huge fan of Skylar Bell. I think he has talent that is all Big Ten level talent. We saw him as a redshirt freshman this year. He was a freshman All-American by some publications, and you see like he's the one guy right now that you trust kind of go up and get a 50-50 ball. I think the Badgers need another one of those bigger body guys. Bell's the biggest one. He's 6'1", and he's still a little skinny. Chimere DK is explosive, but he's slight of build. Dean Ingram, slight of build. Even Keontae Lewis, not really a big body. They need the guy who's 6'3", maybe 210, who's going to win those 50-50 balls, and, the big downfield contested catches that you have to get if you're going to get those big explosive chunk plays. So let's move off of 2023 and look forward at 2024, because since you and I last talked, Clint, Badgers landed a big fish in the 2024 class, and that is quarterback Mabrey Mettauer out of the Woodlands, Texas. He's a 4-star kid, big 6'5", 6'6", 220, runs really naturally for a guy his size. Bernie and I had Matt Sims on breaking down his skill set on the podcast this week. Sims is, he has some pretty interesting comps. I'm not going to give away the goods here. You got to go over there and listen for all of that. But this to me does two things, Clint. First of all, it says, the Badgers are going big game hunting now. Like there's no more messing around with, maybe we'll get an under recruited, 2 or 3 star and develop him up into, 3rd, 4th year in the program. He's ready to contribute as a game manager. No, like they are going and they are swinging for the fences. That tells me that they're serious about this, and they are serious about getting a jump on the 2024 class, because we all know that you need a quarterback to really sort of bring the class together and oftentimes kickstart it. So what does this do in your mind, and what does this tell you about sort of the future of where the Badgers are going to go recruiting wise?
Well, I mean, you see it time and time again. I mean, I'll use Notre Dame as an example just because it's a very glaring, obvious one, with the commitment of CJ Carr, getting him as a 2024, and just the receiving talent that wants to come along. And so one, it's a huge kickstart. What is he, the second commit in the 2024 class for them?
Yes, that is correct. He is, Austin Alexander was the first one.
Yep. Okay. So second 2024 commit, you can't beat that. Quarterbacks are not, the farther this process goes on, the harder it is, unless you're one of the, the blue blood programs, to find and land a big time quarterback. Get a guy like that in the boat. Receivers want to come and play for him. And like you said, big kid, prototype, can run, has a big arm, and he's in Texas. He's in a hotbed of football, and I'm sure he's going to start recruiting as soon as possible. So that's huge. You kick off the class like that, and then what it signals for the future is this is big game hunting, man. This isn't, let's evaluate them a little longer and see what happens. This is, we're going to identify our guys and we're going to go after them. And that's what we saw at Cincinnati. And they weren't afraid to go after guys that didn't have the high ratings yet. You know what I mean? A lot of their guys, like I think of Cam Calhoun, he's either unranked or 3-star when they signed him, or when they got his commitment. He ends up at Michigan. He's a 4-star, high caliber kid. This is what we're going to see at Wisconsin. They're going to trust their evaluations, yes, but they're also going to swing at the top players. To go into Texas, get a kid like that, when you've got programs in the state, big time programs who would love to have them, not to mention the whole SEC, big win. And I just think it's a preview of what we're going to see. These guys can recruit. They're not afraid to go after the big guys. Yeah. Are they going to win them all? Absolutely not. We're still not Alabama. It's still not, Clemson or LSU, but you land guys like that for long enough and you might become one of them. So I just love the aggressiveness. I love the forward thinking that, already on to 2023 class isn't even done, but we're going for big fish in 2024. I think that signals, is a preview of what you can expect moving forward.
And when you also get, a big name like that early in the cycle, they can do recruiting for you too. They can say, hey, I know this kid from playing 7-on-7 on an all-star team. Like, he's going to be a good fit. Like, let me love him up as someone who's already committed in the class, right? Yeah, you got to get up to Madison, dude. You have no idea what you're missing. That kind of thing, right? There is no more better. There's no more better recruiting than organic recruiting from your peers. Like you can have a
Especially,
coach come
yeah.
tell you a million things, but that's not the same as your boy, someone you have trusted, saying, "Hey, like you got to do this." So, it's
And you see
very
it over
exciting.
and over.
Yeah,
You see it over and over. I'm at all these national camps, and the guys who are committed, especially the quarterbacks, they're like, "Bro, you need to come with me. If you're not thinking about it, you need to at least check it out. You owe that to me." And they're in the ears of the top kids more than the coaches. The coaches are limited, and also kids don't want to hear from the coaches every day. They annoy them at some point. When your buddy or a guy who you look up to as a young player that you know is the national recruit that you're at a camp with, that you see at a 7-on-7. I mean, these guys, they look out. Like I'll talk to players. I'll be like, who's the most overrated kid? Who's the most underrated kid? They're pretty in touch with what's going on, and they'll give their opinions on it. And when they see a kid they like, they're always trying to get him to join. And so to have your signal caller of the future be that guy, that's big time.
yeah, absolutely. And I think just going on, building on that, one of the questions we had in the den was, what is the implications of having an already established recruiting department basically pick up from Cincinnati and land in Madison? We've talked about Maximus. We talked about, the team of guys that they have in that recruiting department already being established, having worked together in Cincinnati. What does that do, and how does that, how does that help them moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it does a lot because they're all on the same page. Like, this isn't, okay, we need to get everybody together. We need to develop our processes within this new culture, within this new program. Yeah, there's going to be some tweaks because of where you're at. There's going to be some tweaks because of what you're trying to accomplish and the new caliber of player that you should supposedly be able to recruit. But they're on the same page. They have a plan. It's a proven plan, and it works. So I think you take what you have, what they brought with them. I'm not sure who's all going to be in that recruiting department, but then you say, okay, who do we have at Wisconsin who can be, advantageous to us moving forward, who understands the lay of the land, who understands how recruiting has worked here, the limitations, things we've struggled with in the past, and things that they feel that we could be better at or take advantage of that I might not know as an outsider coming into Wisconsin. But the plan is in place. The people are used to working with each other. They're not going to go that far from what they've done in the past. Maybe a different caliber of player. It may be a new campus. It may be new facilities, and it may be a new conference. But what they have done has worked. And like I said, the plan's in place. It's going to be tweaked a little. I think, their personnel won't be exactly what they had at Cincinnati, at Wisconsin. They'll probably incorporate some Wisconsin stuff. Maybe they'll go and get some big time guy that they wanted at Cincinnati and couldn't afford there. I don't know. What I do know is the recruiting department and what Maximus has done is it's tried and true. They've done a great job in the past, and I expect that. And we've already seen it. These guys can recruit. It's going to carry over to Wisconsin, and I'm excited to see what a program, because Wisconsin has been developmental, and you can still be a developmental program and identify great players and develop them into even better players. But these guys, they're like you said, they're big game hunting, and that hasn't always been the Wisconsin MO. I mean, even back in the day, in the Alvarez era, you found the guys that you liked, you found the program fits, you took advantage of your connections, and you put together some great teams. I'm excited to see what happens when you have all of that. You keep the tradition of Wisconsin, you keep a lot of things in play, but now you're bringing in the big time recruiting aspect, and let's see how it plays out.
Yeah, it is, everyone we talk to, I'm fortunate because of Bernie, I have all these connections. Just everyone I talk to is like, haven't felt this excited about the program in X years, 10 years, 20 years, my entire life. I can't remember a time that it was this exciting, etc. That's how it is. Like everyone I talk to, it's wild, crazy times in Madison. But you talk about the importance of recruiting, talk about the importance of getting young guys early. One of the big targets in 2025 is going to be Talon Taylor. He's an absolute stud receiver. You just caught up with him recently. Now he's got Big Ten lineage. He's getting a lot of SEC offers. How do you feel about where his recruitment stands right now? How do you feel about him as a prospect? And do you think Wisconsin does actually have a shot with him at the end of the day?
Yeah, I do think Wisconsin does. When we talked, and this was the first time, because when I first started talking with him was over the summer. He had just picked up Iowa and Minnesota. You said the lineage, Iowa. His dad played there and in the NFL, obviously. and was a great running back for Iowa. And I believe, did he play for the Jaguars?
Tavian Banks. Yeah, he did. I
Yeah,
believe so.
yeah.
I mean, I
Oh,
may
I
be
didn't even
wrong.
say his name.
But I'm
Yeah, no,
pretty. I'm 99% sure he played for the Jags. So
Wisconsin fans will remember Tavian Banks. So that's Talon's dad. And so he had Iowa was the first offer, Minnesota was the second, Wisconsin was the third, I believe, and then Michigan State and Illinois. So a lot of Big Ten feel right now. But in our conversation, he was talking about getting ready, grinding the offseason to go down south and earn some offers, because he did do a game day visit down to Georgia, which obviously blew him away. I mean, it's Georgia. They're defending national champions, and they're right in it again. And they're going to continue to be, obviously. But, as good as Talon is, and he's a big-time talent, I think he's going to be a national recruit. He has a chance to be very special. You can see it on the film, but even seeing his growth between the last time I saw him in person until a couple of weeks ago when I saw him again at the Boom tryouts. I mean, this is a dude. But in the same thing, there's a lot of dudes down south too. So sometimes early on in these recruitments with the younger guys, they want the SEC offers. They want to check it out. They want to have that option. But in the end, sometimes they circle back and stay back home. Go down to Georgia. Even guys like Jamison Williams, he goes up to Ohio State. He starts young, but, he doesn't get a ton of targets because he wasn't the man yet. Goes to Alabama, has a little bit of experience under his belt. And obviously we know where that led. And so, do you want to go somewhere and have a chance to be the man early? I think Talon's the type of kid who could. And I'm not saying he couldn't do it in the South either, but I think Wisconsin will get a close look. It's, proximity-wise, he's going to be able to go up there. It's not going to be a hard deal. His dad played in the Big Ten. He grew up watching the Big Ten. And, I think Wisconsin will be right in the mix. How hard do they go on him? I don't know. I'd imagine they'll go pretty hard on him, considering that they already sent a guy over to Geneva who doesn't really have a stockpile of talent right now. And so I think that says a lot about where he stands in Wisconsin's eyes. And, he talked very positively about the Badgers in our conversation as well.
Awesome. Well, Clint, we appreciate the knowledge and insight as always. We will be back next week in the new year. 2023 promises a lot of excitement around the Badger program, but even better, more excitement here on BadgerBlitz TV with you and me. We're not going anywhere in the new year. We'll be back. Make sure that you
know
are
where to find us
in the den all the time, on the boards, asking us questions. Follow Clint at @rivals_Clint on all the social medias. I'm at _Perko_ on Twitter. And until next time, we will see you guys in the den.
In the den, baby.